If you're trying to lose body fat and gain muscle at the same time, and you kind of find yourself in that kind of skinny fat category where there's a lack of muscle, but there's still some body fat that you want to lose, maybe it's the love handles, maybe it's around the chest, face, arm, shoulder. We all hold fat in different places. Most men, it's going to be that lower belly area that kind of bothers them. Either way, there's some body fat you want to lose and you wouldn't mind gaining some more muscle, essentially going from skinny fat to lean muscular, very much like my client Tom has managed to do in the thumbnail of this video. Now, just to make sure you know who I'm talking about, this is the chap right here. It's one of my clients and good friends, Tom. Now, he very much comes under that skinny fat category, you know, lack of muscle, bit of a beer belly, and he just wasn't really very confident in his physique. And look, he's a busy guy. He's got every reason to be skinny fat. He's got kids, he works a desk job, he runs around doing all this kind of crazy stuff. He's got a lot to juggle in a day. So he's very busy, pretty inactive when it comes to physicality. So it's no surprise that he ended up with a skinny fat physique like most men do. Now, the reason I'm making this video is there's a lot of common mistakes that most skinny fat men make when they want to try and lose body fat. They think to themselves, right, I've got body fat to lose, let's drop these calories down, chicken, broccoli, rice, move more, eat less, do a bunch of cardio, which is what most men will do. And to be fair, that's what we're pretty much told by everyone, right? You buy a fitness magazine, it's going to tell you to eat chicken, broccoli and rice, do loads of plyometrics, star jumps. Maybe one of your mates does CrossFit and he swears by it and he thinks it's going to help you lose weight. Or some pleb on the internet saying, hey dude, do carnivore and keto. Don't worry about the cholesterol levels and constipation, just trust me, bro. Either way, it can be a bit of a minefield when it comes to losing body fat and gaining muscle, especially if you're skinny fat, because most generic advice is not going to help you. In fact, I would say most of it would cause more problems. And that's pretty much what happened to Tom. And then when I first spoke to Tom, he was telling me that his confidence was being affected by the fact he was slowly gaining weight, and it seemed that no matter what he tried to do, he either couldn't stick to it around his lifestyle and his schedule, or it just wasn't really getting him anywhere fast. And if something did work, even temporarily, he couldn't sustain it long enough to actually get a transformation. So he's kind of at his wit's ends, he was getting fed up, and he's approaching his 40s. So obviously, you know, the longer you wait, the harder it gets to fix. So in this video, I want to break down what we did to fully achieve that transformation so that you can follow it and hopefully help you avoid most of the mistakes that Tom was making as well. Now, like I said, he was doing a bunch of cardio. He was cutting out all the carbohydrates and trying to avoid all the foods that he enjoys. And that will work to a degree because you're achieving some form of calorie deficit. Problem here is if that calorie deficit is way too big and it's way below your maintenance, then yes, you'll lose body fat, but you will also lose lean mass and go catabolic because your calories are too low for your body to sustain, which means you'll lose fat and muscle, which might sound good if you've got a belly you want to lose, but you'll lose some of that belly and you'll lose some of that muscle. And by the end of it, your body's going to get metabolic adaptation, basically hitting a plateau, hitting a wall with progress. So you'll lose a bit of weight and it will stop. And that's going to be very frustrating. And because you've lost muscle to get there, as soon as you fall off that diet or make changes or eat regular foods again like a normal human being, you will find that body fat comes right back up with it, probably a bit easier than last time because you now have less muscle. And the reason I keep talking about how much muscle you have is the more muscle you have, the higher your maintenance calories will be. So if you want to build a physique that you can actually sustain, you still need to have a decent amount of lean mass, which is why just doing excessive amounts of cardio, starving yourself, dropping your calories down, being too extreme might look good on the scale because it comes down, but in reality, you're not really building or sustaining any progress for the future, which means you're going to do this yo-yo diet that means you're going backwards and forwards constantly, which is just going to frustrate the hell out of you. And in Tom's case, you know, sticking to these kind of low calorie diets wasn't really sustainable. He does have kids, which means he's going to go out for meals, he's going to be socializing, he also goes to see family abroad several times a year, he goes to music festivals. There's constant minefields of things that are going to set you off and throw you off balance with your calories, which means you're going to starve yourself, then overconsume, and then starve yourself and overconsume. And not only is that incredibly unhealthy, but it's very unsustainable and it's not really going to fix the issue. And this is kind of what led Tom to where he is now, where he was stuck in this skinny fat physique, slowly packing on a belly or slowly losing muscle and lean mass because he was stationary with his job and then over consuming calories on those social events. So that leads us to the point, well, how did we actually fix this? Now, before we get straight into that, there was a few issues we had. He didn't have access to a gym, he worked long hours, he had to look after kids, and he was limited on time. So in Tom's case, we actually did something that I normally don't recommend, and that was training at home. I'd say probably 30 to 40% of the transformations that you see if you follow my Instagram page at Elite Transformation Projects, go and follow it. But most of my transformations are in a gym, but a good 30-40% of them have been at home exclusively, doing body weight or, you know, slowly building a small amount of equipment at home to work with. And that's because it's not realistic for every single man to get to the gym. You know, you might have an hour drive to the gym might be packed, you can only go at 6 o'clock when it's heaving, and then you've got an hour drive when you get home. And I don't know about you, but where's an extra 3 hours in the day for most men, especially in this day and age? So for Tom's case, we needed to try and do quick, short workouts at home that still had some form of progression to them. So I'm going to cover the training side of things and I'm going to break down the nutrition side of things, because that's very important. With the training side of things, we had a bias towards focusing on strength. And the reason this is so powerful for a skinny fat physique is if you're getting stronger, one, you're going to burn calories to do the workouts, but two, two, you're going to sustain and potentially gain muscle even if you're in a calorie deficit. If you just simplify it by looking at adaptation over long periods of time, if you do a lot of running, your body needs to be light and agile. So you'll lose body fat, but you'll also lose lean mass because your body doesn't need muscle to go for loads of runs, right? It only needs a small amount. But if you're getting stronger through body weight movements, squats, pull-ups, push-ups, dips, or in Tom's case where he's slowly invested in some gym equipment, bench press, deadlifts, bent over rows, etc. If you're getting stronger, your body needs to adapt. It needs to have lean mass to continue to keep up with the routine you're putting it through. So the long-term adaptation of strength training is that you need muscle. So we still did a small amount of cardio for fun. We'd go for a run or a jog in the mornings just because Tom enjoyed that, and I do think it's good for mental health. But it wasn't part of the program. The program was a 3-day training split, very basic pull push legs program. The reason it was a 3-day training split is it meant that he could hit every muscle group once per week, and it was easy for him to overload via strength because it was a very simple program to follow. Now don't get me wrong, over time your body gets used to things for adaptation and you will hit plateaus. So what we did with Tom was we tracked his workouts and then we reviewed them weekly and adjusted them accordingly. If a certain muscle group or an area was lagging, we would change his training plan to fit that, and then he would send me videos of his form so we can check the range, fatigability, intensity, time under tension, tempos, etc. That way every single week each workout had a clear goal and clear focus. Every workout was moving him forward. He was improving a few percentages each week, which over a period of time will result in a body transformation. So to simplify this, what we did is instead of doing loads of cardio, loads of gym classes, going for loads of runs and just losing loads of muscle, we kept it simple and built it around him. Training at home, compound movements, clear plan of progressive overload, and then a weekly review of his performance. And this just meant that his training plan was easy to fit around his schedule. If he was traveling with family, he could easily just train in a hotel room or have access to a gym. We just kept it simple and focused on the key metrics of strength gain. And as you can see, obviously he was able to gain muscle, and all of this was done in a calorie deficit. We haven't done a bulk, we haven't done a gaining phase yet. And that brings me on to the diet side of things, which is very, very important. And to be honest with you, I'd say most people overlook this. They just think, oh, chicken, broccoli and rice, protein shakes, yeah, I've got the diet down. What's the best training split, bro? Now with dieting, when it comes to nutrition for skinny fat guys, it's really, really important that we achieve a couple of things. First things first, we don't want a huge calorie deficit. Now I know that sounds kind of silly because you think, well, big deficit, lots of fat loss, right? Great. But if you're trying to keep and gain muscle whilst losing body fat and your calorie deficit is say bigger than 500 below your maintenance, then you run the risk of going catabolic and losing muscle tissue, which is what happens to most skinny fat men when they try and lose body fat. And as I said at the earlier part of the video, if you lose body fat and muscle, it's harder to sustain the physique because now you need less calories to sustain that physique. So what we did with Tom is we worked out what his maintenance calories was, including his workout plan. Then we took off 500 calories from that maintenance target to achieve a 500 calorie deficit. Now the reason we want a 500 calorie deficit is 500 times 7, which is 7 days of the week, is about 3,500, which equates to about 1 pound of fat in terms of energy. Now this is a sustainable, healthy, realistic amount to be losing per week, but it also means that he's not overdoing it, dropping his calories down too soon and basically just losing a load of performance and muscle. Now of course, over time his body will get used to that target. He may start losing half a pound to a quarter of a pound to no pounds, which will then mean we either gently lower the target once his body's accustomed to it, or we increase the overload with his workouts to slowly get stronger to increase his output, which means his body avoids metabolic adaptation. So we didn't just have a small calorie deficit, we also aim to keep it high protein, which is kind of obvious, everyone understands this. We want to aim for about 1 gram per pound of lean body weight, maybe a little bit more if you're worried about losing muscle or if you're particularly active outside of the workouts. So if you have a physical labor job like my client David and you're digging ditches and running around all day long, yes, you might need a little bit more protein, but you also might need a little bit more calories as well. But the reason we want the high protein is if you're in a deficit, your body needs to make up that energy elsewhere, which is why it burns stored fat. If the protein's significantly low and you're in a deficit, you can also burn through lean muscle tissue. So with Tom, we had around 180, 200 grams of protein per day, which was enough for him to sustain and actually gain some muscle whilst overloading with his workouts at home. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, how the hell do I know what my numbers should be? How should I work them out? I do have a free nutritional blueprint that you can download for free in the bio because I like to make sure these videos are as helpful and as practical as possible. And if you like what you're hearing so far, you're just struggling with that skinny fat physique, if you want to learn more, do hit subscribe so you can keep up with these videos because I'm going to do my best to try and make sure I cut through all the BS, get to the point and give you the advice that I wish I was told about 14 years ago, to be honest with you. Now you can download that, and look, if you don't want to download that, that's fine. You can use Google, ChatGPT. The reason I recommend my nutritional blueprint is it's the same method that I use to work out my clients' calories, and then we factor in the lean mass and then what macros to set up. So it's a little bit more specific than just a generic calorie calculator. So you can use that if you want to work out your numbers. So what we did with Tom, just to recap, we had a 500 calorie deficit. We had a high amount of protein. We paired that with a 3-day training split that was focused on strength. Sounds pretty obvious. Sounds pretty simple, right? Nothing to write home about. But this is where most men go wrong. They overcomplicate the basics. They're like, I need to lose body fat. I want to gain muscle. Should I be a hybrid athlete? Should I do a high rock? Should I also do a run and a 5K? Should I do kettlebell swings and then do the fat burning classes? And then I'll do an AB training split. And then I'll do 47.5 sets of this and that, because some guy on the internet said that was the super optimal way. And the problem is, there's so many ways to go about it that you can overcook it and overdo it. And as they say, too many cooks spoil the broth. So if you're taking loads of advice for a plethora of people, all these people have different experiences, different goals, different starting points, different genetics. Some of them are taking steroids. It's just a minefield, and it can be very overwhelming. And then you can get paralysis by analysis, and then you just don't stick to anything and you keep jumping from program to program. Whereas if you simplify it, focus on what works for you and your body type and your goals. So in Tom's case, getting stronger to keep and gain lean mass, slight calorie deficit to lose body fat, then you're able to get an amazing result just like this. We did the exact same thing for Reese. We did the exact same thing for Shane, Matt, Matthew, Ross, Josh, Leon, even my female client Alex, who lost over 165 pounds of pure body fat. This universally works to lose body fat and gain lean mass. These people have gained muscle in a calorie deficit because they've kept it simple and overloaded each week. Heck, I've even got some clients right now that have come to me with an amazing training plan that's very well thought out, but it's just been a bit too much. We've dialed it down to the basics. We've tweaked it as they progressed, and they managed to gain more muscle and lose more body fat than they did following a more technical program. So in Tom's case, we fit it around his schedule. We had weekly check-ins and accountability so he knew what he was doing. We reviewed his form so his workouts were constantly improving and overloading every single week. And then we tracked his food, monitored it and adjusted it so that way he was able to be flexible with his meals, so he could still eat out and have good meals with his children, but still remain focused in between that. And that was it. We just needed accountability, a clear plan, and a weekly touch point, and then we were able to get the result that we wanted. So if you're skinny fat and you're trying to gain muscle and lose body fat and you've tried several things, or you're just kind of confused by the conflicting information that's out there when it comes to fitness and nutrition, then I really hope this video has helped you out. And if you really want some one-to-one help the same way that all these clients have had, you can book a quick call with me in the bio to see if I can help you out and actually implement this and map it out around your schedule. Because to be honest with you, that's where most men go wrong as well. It's not just the plan of nutrition, it's actually sticking to it and doing it. That's a good solid part of the reason why most men struggle. And let's be real, most of us know what to do, right? My client Avi, he certainly knew what to do. He knew how to train and eat right. He just struggled to get it done properly and adjust, and it was a bit overwhelming, and he did always find himself kicking the can down the road and saying, oh, I'll do it next week, or I'll get back on it after this. That's where he struggled. As soon as he had some accountability, he was able to lose more body fat and gain more muscle naturally. So if that sounds like something that would help you out, feel free to book a call. If you've got any questions or you just want to ask a bit more about how the coaching works, you can message me on Elite Transformation Project at Instagram. All the YouTube things, like and subscribe. And yeah, I just hope this video helps. That's the whole point of it. So have a great day and good luck on your transformation journey. It's worth it.